If living in a diverse part of Georgia is important to you, you're going to want to watch this video. I'm going to give you 5 of the most diverse neighborhoods in and around the Atlanta area. Coming up right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in Atlanta. This YouTube channel is your guide to getting to know what it's like to live in and around the Atlanta area. My name is Mark. I'm a licensed realtor and team leader here in Atlanta, Georgia. And if you have any real estate needs in the area, all of our contact information is in the description below. We would love for you to reach out to us today. Alright, so since starting a YouTube channel, one of the most common things that people have asked me about when they reach out is, hey Mark, where are areas that are diverse? Where are areas where there will be other people that are like me? Where are areas that are tolerant and areas that I don't have to worry about any overt racism or discrimination? So I thought it would be helpful for some of my viewers if I made a list of 5 of the more diverse neighborhoods in and around Atlanta. Now, as is the case with any video I make, this is not the definitive list. There are plenty of diverse areas in and around Atlanta that are not on this list. I am going to be using information from the government census website to talk about demographics, and I'm also going to be using my experience just spending time in these areas. So don't be too concerned if an area you're thinking of moving to isn't on this list, and don't get too caught up in these being the absolute 5 most diverse neighborhoods in the whole state. These are just 5 that I wanted to highlight based on the statistics and based on my experience spending time in. So let's get right into it, my top 5 most diverse neighborhoods in Atlanta. Now, before we start, just generally speaking, for your knowledge, if you're completely unfamiliar with Atlanta, I know that a lot of people have a perception of Georgia in the South in general as maybe being less tolerant. It is a place where people may have greater concerns about racism and discrimination than they would maybe in the Northeast or the West Coast. But remember, Atlanta is a large, progressive metropolitan area. So generally speaking, if you're within Atlanta or really anywhere within an hour of Atlanta, I say, you're probably not going to have to worry too much about feeling like you're not welcome there. Now, of course, negative, unwelcoming situations could happen in any part of Georgia. But if you're worried about, moving a half hour outside of Atlanta and, seeing the KKK outside your door, that's almost definitely not going to be the case. So again, Atlanta is a large, diverse, progressive city. And so you get, the halo effect around the city, I would say up to about an hour. And that also doesn't mean beyond an hour it's, not accepting or tolerant. I'm just speaking in generalities here. If you are a city person and you want that city inclusivity, you're definitely going to get that in Atlanta. Now, first off, let's just look at the general census statistics for the city of Atlanta. So Atlanta is about 49% black. It is about 40% white, 4% Asian, and 5% Hispanic. So the reality is Atlanta is not really a true melting pot like, say, in New York. It's kind of like a black and white cookie with some Asian and Hispanic sprinkles, if you will. You really don't have the incredible multiplicity of cultures that you do in a New York, which is just, a true melting pot. Not only do you have a higher diversity of cultures there, but you have all of them packed into spots. And I would say in my time living in Atlanta, it can often feel somewhat segregated in the sense that people stay within their groups and there's just a little bit less commingling than you would think, than you would hope to see. Again, it doesn't mean there's a lot of intolerance in the city, but if someone's describing Atlanta as a true melting pot to you, I don't really find that to be accurate. So coming in at number 5 of Atlanta's most diverse neighborhoods, this one really surprised me. It's Johns Creek. Now, if you're from the Atlanta area, you probably have a perception of Johns Creek as being maybe a bit snobby. It's a higher income area and probably not one you would think of as particularly diverse, but Wallet Hub actually did a study a few years ago and they found that Johns Creek was one of the most diverse cities in all of Georgia. Now, looking at the statistics of the Census.gov website, you'll see that Johns Creek is 57% white, 10% black, 25% Asian, and about 7.5% Hispanic. So you do have a lower percentage of black people in Johns Creek. You have a much higher percentage of Asian American people in Johns Creek, and you have a slightly higher than average percentage of Hispanic and Latino people in Johns Creek. So it is a higher income area, and you may have a perception of it being a bit snobby, but it doesn't mean it's not diverse. Now, generally speaking, Johns Creek is one of the most desirable suburbs you could live around Atlanta. The schools are really good. It's a very safe place to live and to raise a family. It is a higher income area. Homes are going to be more expensive in Johns Creek, and you got a great proximity to the city. You have Alpharetta next door, so you've got a lot of great neighborhoods right close by to you. So if you are in that higher income bracket, you're raising a family, you want to be still close to Atlanta, and diversity is important to you, you may actually want to take a look at Johns Creek first. Now, coming in at number 4 on my list, this is one of the first spots that I personally thought about when creating this list. It's Duluth, Georgia. So the statistics for Duluth in terms of demographic are as follows. It's about 40% white, 21% black, 25% Asian, and 16% Hispanic. So actually, of all the places on this list, this has one of the most balanced mixes of the different demographics that you'll find around Atlanta. And if you're from the Atlanta area, you probably think of Duluth as an area with a very large Asian demographic, which we just shown that it does have, but this is also an area where there are a lot of Asian restaurants. There's a ton of Asian cuisine, a ton of Asian supermarkets. So maybe if you're Korean or Chinese and it's important for you to have those types of amenities close by, Duluth is definitely one of the first places you should look. And like I just said for Johns Creek, it's very close to Johns Creek. We're in the north part of Atlanta. The schools are generally very good here. Very safe area. It is typically a more expensive area, not quite as expensive as Johns Creek. Actually, I think there's still some good value in Duluth. And just personally speaking, as someone who really likes different ethnic foods, especially Asian foods, this is a foodie's heaven here. There are so many great restaurants, so many great cheap eats, so many great supermarkets in and around Duluth. So this is a place that I spend a lot of time in, and it is one of the more diverse cities in and around Atlanta. So coming in at number 3 on my list, I have Doraville. Now, again, when I was creating this list, Doraville is probably the first place that I thought of because in Doraville, you have Buford Highway, which you've heard me talk about on this channel quite often, but you have so many different cultures in this area. You have an entire area of a ton of great ethnic restaurants, one of my favorite places to go eat. So the demographics for Doraville are as follows. 62% white, only 3% black, but you have 51% Hispanic and then 17% Asian. So much higher than typical Asian and way higher than typical Hispanic, which is probably the main reason why it's made this list. So this is an area where if you're Hispanic or Latino, you may feel more comfortable in this area. It might have more of the amenities that you are used to for your culture. And again, I have to be honest, Doraville and Duluth, my 2 favorite places to eat around the city. I always talk about how I'm very down on the Atlanta food scene. When I want to go out to lunch or to dinner, when I want to go eat out, I'm either going to Duluth or Doraville. Now, that's because I like ethnic food. I love Mexican food. I love Asian food, Sichuan, Japanese food, Korean food. So these are my types of places. So these are places I spend a lot of time in. Doraville is also a fantastic place to buy real estate. It is one of the fastest growing neighborhoods around Atlanta. There is a ton of construction going on here and still relatively good value. It has not gotten quite as expensive as some of the adjacent neighborhoods. It's also just north of the perimeter, right? The Chamblee, Doraville area. We often talk about these areas in the same sentence, but you can be kind of in the city, kind of outside the city, so it's the best of both worlds. This is an area that I'm very fond of. It's an area where the prices have gone up quite a bit in the last few years. It's growing tremendously, and you've got a particular kind of diversity here that might work for certain people. All right, coming in at number 2 on my list, I have Fayetteville. Now again, that might raise some eyebrows for people who think, Fayetteville, Peachtree City, might think, snobby, mostly white areas. It's actually not. It's actually a fairly balanced, diverse area. I always like to include areas south of Atlanta because any research you do about Atlanta typically completely ignores south of the city. But I'm going to keep talking about Fayetteville because I just think it's completely underrated as a place to live and as a place to raise a family. But looking at the demographics for Fayetteville, you've got 43% white, 38% black, 7% Asian, and about 4.6% Hispanic. So a little bit more of a balance between all the demographics that you'll find around Atlanta here. But it's a great place to live. It's a great family-oriented place where you'll see white families, you'll see black families, mixed families, Hispanic families, Asian families. I think it's generally a pretty welcoming place, and certainly a place where, most, if not all, cultures should feel welcome and comfortable. And again, being south of Atlanta, real estate wise, I think you're going to find some great value here. Your commute into the city, if you're working there, is going to be, 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, depending on where you have to go, but it's not far from the city. You're even closer to the airport than you would be in any of the other neighborhoods that I'm talking about. And it's a very safe area, and it's an area that's, like many of the other neighborhoods I'm talking about, growing rapidly. So if you are looking south of the city because, let's say, it's less dense there, you want more land, and you want more money for your budget, and diversity is also important for you, I would definitely take a look at Fayetteville. All right, coming in at number 1 on my list of the most diverse neighborhoods of Atlanta, I have Lilburn. Now, Lilburn is to the northeast of Atlanta, and here are the demographics. It's about 34% white, about 15% black, 20% Asian, 40% Hispanic, and it's actually 16.4% 2 or more races, which is the highest percentage of all the neighborhoods on the list I'm talking about today. So Lilburn is an area generally thought of, I think, for people who live here as being a large Hispanic population, but it's even more diverse than I think maybe people would realize. There really is a pretty decent balance. Much larger than normal Asian population, the lowest white population on this list. So I like Lilburn a lot. Again, I try to talk about areas that don't get mentioned in the blogs that you might be searching or other YouTube videos, but I think this is a really cool spot. The schools are going to be a mixed bag. It is Gwinnett, so typically the schools are going to be good, but like a lot of areas of Atlanta, it's going to come down to looking at the address and, seeing what that actual school grade is, which I've given you resources in the past to be able to do that. But easy commute into town. If you are working in the city, that's not going to be a problem. 20-25 minutes into the city, depending on traffic. It's really not far outside of the perimeter. Now, in terms of things to do in Lilburn, it's not going to knock your socks off. There's a few nice parks. Some farmers markets. There are some nice things to do, but you're close to a lot of great areas. You can go right into the city to hang out or do something fun. You can go to Stone Mountain, is just to the south if you want to go for a hike, or just check out Stone Mountain Laser Show. You can go check that out. So I think it's the real estate here is, again, I think it's going to be good value. Maybe you're on a little bit lower of a budget. You need those good schools. You need to be closer to the city. I would take a look at Lilburn, especially if diversity is important for you. Maybe you're Hispanic, you're Latino, you want your family to feel comfortable in where you're raising them. Lilburn could be a great option. All right, so there you have it. That is a list of 5 particularly diverse neighborhoods in and around Atlanta. Now, again, this does not mean neighborhoods that are not on this list are not diverse. This doesn't even mean these are the most diverse neighborhoods in the whole state of Georgia. I would have to sift through all of the statistics on the Census government website to really figure that out. But these are areas that, according to statistics, have a better than average balance of different cultures, and these are areas that I've personally spent quite a bit of time in and can share a little bit about. So if diversity is particularly important to you, these are all great areas to start looking. But if you're already committed to an area or you're being relocated to an area, no need to freak out. Again, I think some of the intolerance, at least around Atlanta, can be overblown. I know coming from the Northeast, having never stepped foot in the Southeast, I thought of all of Georgia as an extremely narrow-minded place. That does exist, but that doesn't have to be your experience all the time in any area that you look at. So just some general information, do your own research, comment, ask me questions, and of course reach out if you want to continue the conversation about finding you and your family a home. We can do that as well. I will share the website that I used to pull this information so that you can do your own research. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and tap that bell to be notified every time I put out a new video, because I do put them out at random times. I really appreciate you watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in person. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.